Hello, my beautiful human. Welcome back to the She Did It Anyway podcast. This is your shakeup, and I am so excited to talk about vulnerability and the power of sharing your story. When I was planning out this episode, I started thinking about how last month or so I was on a podcast and I was talking about the difference between being vulnerable and broadcasting, and how social media has allowed us to really blur the lines between am I really being vulnerable or am I just broadcasting for attention? So today I just want to talk about the power of actually being vulnerable, what that means, how I took these like actionable, practical steps that you can also take to show up vulnerably. Because I realize now, being on social for over a decade, it comes really easy for me to share my story, to share my struggles. I understand that not everybody's like that. And I didn't realize that until my clients, in my one-on-one clients and my brand business accelerator clients, started talking about how it's really hard for them to show up when they are going through something, they're struggling, or talking about things that they've experienced in the past. And I realized that, giving them these tangible steps, I realized that this could be really, really helpful for you as well. And that so many people go through this where they are just really nervous to show up vulnerably, or on the flip side, they actually don't know how to. And so when I started sharing things on social, I really started sharing it in a way where I was using social as like my diary. I did not think about the other person on the other side. I wasn't necessarily trying to help anybody. I was more trying to connect with them and just like have conversations and talk and share the things that I'm going through. And if it helps someone, great. If it doesn't, great. Like I didn't have a strategy, which is funny because that is a strategy within itself. I started sharing my story and who I was like surface level in 2012, 2013. And it was all around fitness. And I was talking about, my struggles with dropping weight, my struggles with getting stage ready because I was doing fitness bikini competitions. And I realized that throughout the years, I actually was still holding back from sharing parts of my story that I didn't feel comfortable sharing until I had Sebastian. When I had Sebastian, it was this pivotal moment where I felt like, you know what, I'm ready to talk about the things that make me uncomfortable. And so when we're thinking about how we can show up vulnerably and show up and be vulnerable and share our stories, right? I think it really starts with a lot of self-reflection and acceptance. I had to do the inner work before I started like broadcasting, right? And so that's the difference. Before I started sharing it out loud, I had to do the inner work and start accepting like, this is what I've gone through. This is how I have processed it. This is what I'm getting out of it. Now it's time for me to share it out. And if it resonates with someone, amazing. And so the first thing that I really want you to focus on is like self-acceptance and self-reflecting and thinking about what are things that you want to share and maybe things that you haven't talked about. And it doesn't have to be, which is something I always highlight to my clients, it doesn't necessarily have to be sharing like past traumas or experiences. Being vulnerable can very much be like what you've experienced day to day, maybe a lesson, maybe something that like is unexpected. Maybe it's, you're an entrepreneur and you worked really hard for a launch and maybe your marketing strategy wasn't as successful as you anticipated it to be, right? Sharing stuff like that also is allowing you to show up vulnerably and share your story and connect with others, because that is the key. Really being able to share your story, connect with someone else on the other side is the power of storytelling. It is the power of being vulnerable, because what that does is, and I love saying this, but it like humanizes you. It makes you relatable, and it also allows you to be okay and normalize the things that you go through, the setbacks, the failures, all of the things like the imposter syndrome, the thoughts that come up. When you start normalizing it and being like, hey guys, I actually felt this last week and I cannot believe it because, oh my God, like whatever, however you want to approach it, like being able to normalize that and humanize that makes it so, one, you accept it more, you're normalizing it so it's not actually setting you back, and you're now connecting with someone else and allowing them to be okay with the things that they're going through, not feeling so, bent out of shape because they've experienced something, because they feel so alone. And so once you start figuring out what it is you want to share and accepting that, really starting to embrace the fact that, what, this is my truth. This is what I've experienced. This is the things that I'm going through. And now I'm going to connect with someone else by sharing it. And so for me, I actually thought like, okay, I talked about, being a single mom in the past and struggling financially with my family and coming here from Egypt and being bullied and all the things. Like I'm done. I've like checked off the box with telling my story and being vulnerable. The end. That couldn't be further from the truth. And I realized that every single day you experience something, good or bad, exciting, highs and lows, and being able to share that in a vulnerable way of like, hey, look at what I've experienced. You're not alone is so powerful, especially when it comes to building your personal brand. Really like diving into that role of storytelling when it comes to building your personal brand and understanding that your personal brand has different stages and different seasons. And when I reflect back on the stages of my personal brand and the evolution of my personal brand, I think about the vulnerable stories and times that I've shared when I was doing fitness competitions, and then when I became a single mom, and then when I went into corporate, and then when I, was moving and getting in a new relationship, and then when I got laid off, and then I became an entrepreneur. Like there's so many different seasons and there's so many different stories that I've shared throughout that process. And so what happens and the power of storytelling is that you're allowing someone to be so invested in your evolution that they back you up no matter what. My community knows me. They know who I am. They know what I stand for. They know what I've been through, and they know that I'm going to be honest with them. And so really embracing your truth and being able to connect with someone else on a deeper level is only going to benefit you and help you build that community, especially digitally. It is so hard to connect with someone without being face to face if you're just trying to be surface level. And so I'm really challenging you to start thinking about, and this could be journaling, but start thinking about the things that you've gone through, maybe lessons that you've learned, things that you want to share out. Also, start thinking about the things that you've already talked about and reshare them. A lot of the times we think that once we share something once, that's it. Everybody has seen it. I don't ever have to repeat it again. And that's not the case. Really start focusing on self-reflecting, accepting what you've gone through, being ready to share different angles of that story and that experience with the intention of connecting with someone else, with the intention of normalizing what you've gone through, embracing your truth and really embracing who you are, understanding that you're going to go through seasons with just being a human, but building your personal brand, especially digitally. Really start thinking about that. I want to know from you where you are in terms of your comfort level of sharing your story out there, what parts you feel like, I've been ready to share. These are parts that I don't want to share. And which, by the way, spoiler alert, you do not have to share everything. Just because you have a platform that allows you to be vulnerable does not mean that you have to share every single thing. And I actually see this a lot with a lot of people online where they get mad at like influencers or bloggers or whatever and being like, well, why didn't you share that? Or tell us more. It's like, no. You don't owe anybody anything. What really allows you to build connection and community and truly the power of being vulnerable is being able to share it from a place where you're ready to share, where it's this like place of peace of, hey, I'm going to share this because this is what I've experienced. This is what I am experiencing now. I'm bringing you along with me. Here you go. The end. You don't owe anybody anything else other than that. So I hope this helps. I really want to know, where are you in terms of your comfort level, and really think about diving into sharing more about who you are, not just what you do throughout this week. So I hope this shakeup helps you and really started to kick off your week in a way where you are ready to show up authentically, vulnerably, and connect with your tribe. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. And don't forget, no matter what, she did it anyway.
You did it, Mom.